We are Jacob and Anna White. We are carpenters from Alaska. We've helped millions of people build their own furniture through our plans and website. But now, we are going beyond that. We're going to show you how to build yourself a house, tiny style. In this video series, we'll show you step by step how to go from a trailer to a beautiful finished home. Make sure you subscribe and follow along.
Hi guys, I'm Anna.
And I'm Jacob.
And we're back this week with the 4th episode of our tiny house build, which you can see is really coming along. This week we're going to go into the roof framing. But before we get to that, we want to take a quick second and to answer a pretty popular question that some of you had last week on the wall framing video.
That would be steel framing and why we didn't go that route.
So the reason that we decided to go with wood framing instead of steel framing is that, well, one, wood is easier for us to work with. We're carpenters and it's kind of what we know and live and breathe and love to do, so we chose wood for that reason. The second reason is that steel is a very poor insulator, so up here where we have a more extreme climate, that's something to factor in. And then we've also read some reports about if you have a screw into steel and there's movement, that can cause the screw to back out, which is a lot less likely to happen with wood framing. So we're not saying steel framing is a bad choice, we're just saying that we chose wood. Let's frame this roof. For this tiny house roof, of course, I drew it all up in SketchUp before we even started building it. It's pretty simple. From the walls, you just go up with an upright, and then you put a ridgepole on top of that, and then you run rafters off that ridgepole. We had to integrate in the dormers with the main roof, so those are different pitches. We went with standard pitches. There's a 212 to a 712, which equals 10 to 30 degrees on the different pitches. So that made it really simple to do. And then I tried to minimize on this design like overhangs, just because that adds to the overall width of the build. And it also creates the complexity of having to finish out the overhangs. The downside, like he said, of not having overhangs is it doesn't protect your building as much, but we're trying to stay very narrow, so it kind of worked in our favor.
So on this roof build, we started out with a ridgepole. So the first thing you do with your ridgepole is basically lay it out for overall what the building is. You want to put your layout on it. So you want to match where the rafters go on the wall, and then also you have an overhang on either end of your building on the gables. So basically laying it out on the ground saves you a lot of time and energy of trying to mark it in the air. We put our ridgepole up. We started with a spacer, which gave us our overall height for our ridgepole. We put that up and then started going down the wall with adding the rafters in, and that all went pretty smooth. And then we spliced in the ridge as we went. So as we went down the building, we just kept adding onto the ridge. Instead of having one ridge that was an overall length of like 26 foot, we spliced it in 2 different spots.
It's a quick fix because, I don't know, we can't get a 26 foot long 2x6 up here unless we special order it.
Now that we got our ridgepole up, we're going to start attaching some of these rafters. We only attached a few to start. That supports the ridgepole, and you can continue it on the wall. As you noticed, our heels where the bird's mouth is on the wall, we attached this with the Craig jig. We did it that way. You can toenail them. Most framers, they just toenail them and it works just fine. Keep adding rafters as you go and stay your layout that should be on your ridgepole on both sides.
The roof framing is really, it usually is a big task. Usually it's like one of the biggest tasks when you're framing something, right?
Not on a tiny
Not on this one. This roof system went together like I have never seen a roof system go together.
So now that all the rafters are up and the ridgepole is up, now before you can sheet this place, you have to finish a couple of simple tasks. You have to finish out the gables. The gables have to have some blocking for the soffit and also the end gable fascia board on both sides. And then you also need an eave fascia board that runs the length of the bottom of the rafters. We use used a 1/2 inch CDX plywood for sheathing. We used 4x8 sheets, pretty standard off the shelf. So we just started at the top and we ran the sheathing down to the other end, and make sure you stagger your joints coming back. Obviously this overall roof on most was like 5 foot, so there was a 1 foot strip coming back. Yeah, pretty simple sheathing the roof.
So Jacob just pretty much covered everything about sheeting, but there's one thing that he's taught me on this build that I thought I would pass along to you, is there's some tricky spots where there's angles, right? Especially where there's the dormer angles where you got one roof pitch meeting another roof pitch. The easiest way to do that is just always remember, don't get caught up in trying to figure out different measurements. Just remember that one roof pitch is 30 degrees and the other roof pitch is 10 degrees, and you're starting at a point. And if you're just going to draw one line at 30 and one line at 10 and then just figure out how long that needs to be, you've got your pieces cut, and the same applies for the gable ends.
It goes from your roof pitch to your plywood to your roof angles to your gable flashing to your eave flashing. All that makes it goes easy.
Yes, you always know what the angle is.
So now that the framing's done and the rafters are all on, the plywood, everything, it's ready to go on to the next step. So it's time for metal. You know a good roofer?
No, it's time to build a shed, and then we'll roof. Sorry, we didn't get that metal.
Shed about.
Next week, we're going to add a little shed to the back of this tiny house, so stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you later.